Good afternoon today. I might say good evening because it's already 5 p.m. So today we'll be discussing Moody Awori. He was appointed to a board. It's known as the Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund. So there's a lot of hula baloo about his appointment because he's 90 years old. The dude was born on 5th December 1928. That's a long time. That's a long time. Just after the Europeans came, 1928. Like 40 some years before independence anyway. So his age is 90. He was born in Butere. Today seems like his birthday gift because today is 5th December and he got an appointment right at 90 years. As in that's amazing. So people do not like it because they feel that the youth are being marginalized, and what they're doing is that they are regurgitating the old folk again and again, and we've seen these complaints before. So anyway, I just want to look at this board and see what's up. But before I do that, did you know that the retirement age for civil servants is 60? It was 55. It's now 60, and that was as at March 7th, 2009. And that directive became effective April 2009. And on 5th December 2018, we have a 90-year-old assuming office. So yeah, that's what Kenya is. So anyway, just this board was gazetted by by Henry Rotich. It's a 7-member board. So Awori is just one of the 7 members, and they come from, it's 5 principal secretaries from different ministries, right? And then there's one other guy from Athletics Kenya, and now Moody Awori. So just to give an overview of the ministries that are involved. The first one is the Ministry of Education. I'm thinking you remember it. There was a $3.2 billion this is $billion. I can see dollar here, but I think it's shilling. Ruaraka land scandal. I think you saw that back in the day. So Matiangis and Swazuri are in hot soup because of that. So that ministry is well represented. And then there's the Arts Ministry, the Ministry of Sports, Culture and the Arts. So again, that ministry is well represented because it recently had a 1 billion Kenya shilling scandal. So it's there and it's well represented. The Ministry of Health is also there. It had a $5 billion scandal just the other day. The Afya Center scandal. So it's well represented. And then of course there's the National Treasury, which of course had the Eurobond $215 billion scandal. So every ministry with every significant scandal except the Ministry of Youth and Gender Affairs is well represented here. And you could say it's a meeting point of people who have serious questions to answer to the people. Anyway, so the Ministry of Sports, Culture and the Arts, they get two principal secretaries. One deal with arts and the other one deals with sports. So that's why there are 5. In addition to the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, Ministry of National Treasury. So in 2 from the Ministry of Sports. And then now we have Jackson Tuwei, who was the retired again Athletics Kenya boss, retired of course, regurgitating the old folk. And then of course Moody Awori. So Moody Awori, not to be left out, I think you remember back in the day, I will not resign. I am not resigning. I think you remember that back in the day. So that was Moody Awori. And he was linked to the Anglo-Lycin scandal. So that's a $1 billion kind of scandal. So yeah, it seems like a very good meeting point for interesting fellows. So anyway, just to go on with that. So I read the gazettement of this fund, the Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund. It happened on 10th August 2018, legal notice number 174 under the Public Finance Management Act. So anyway, I found something interesting. This is part 2, establishment of the fund. That's under the gazettement. The fund shall consist of all the proceeds required to be paid into the fund under the Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act. So that got my attention immediately because betting is a really big deal in Kenya. And just to show you how big of a deal is, 70% of Kenyan youth have participated in gambling. 76%. Now, that's 76% of Kenyan youth participating in gambling, 57% of Ugandan youth, and 42% of Ghanaian youth. So I'm guessing you can see where we are at. So it's a big deal, and there's a report by PricewaterhouseCoopers from it was a gambling outlook from 2017, that's last year, and a projection up to 2021. And it said that the gambling industry, the betting industry specifically, is worth $20 million. I think that's around $2 billion. So I checked this, and there's a guy called Robert Alai. I think you guys know him, and he said that like a sport pesa, what they reckon is 1.3 billion every month. So again, I'm kind of like doubting the PricewaterhouseCoopers figures, or perhaps the calculation was a bit different. But anyway, 1.3 billion every month, that translates to 15 billion every year. So it's a big deal. And if part of these funds are going into this new fund to be spearheaded by Moody Awori and others, then that's interesting. Again, like I gave you the brief overview, the Ruaraka land scandal, the Afia Center scandal, it's an interesting mix of people who will be here. And if they'll be handling billions, then yeah, we might be ready for some interesting times. Anyway, it will get some funds from the Income Tax Act, some monies by the National Assembly, grants and donations, and then income generated from the proceeds of the fund. So it's kind of like going to do some stuff. I'm thinking perhaps it will start. Anyway, it's going to do some stuff to get some money. So okay, that's that. Yeah, so 35% of the funds will go to the promotion of development of sports, 40% to social development including universal healthcare, 20% to the promotion of development of arts, and 5% to government strategic interventions. Okay, here's what I understand from this one. It's very vague. Everything here is vague. I do not understand why the Ministry of Health is in this and the Ministry of Youth is not in this, other than the fact that people would have questioned this mix of people if the Ministry of Youth was here, because we really remember those scandals in our head. But for these others, the scandals are a bit hidden. I'm sure that most people perhaps are not aware of the 1.7 billion scandal at the Ministry of Sports. So I do not see why the Ministry of Health is here, and it seems such an area that is outside its parameters, right? The Ministry of Health, it seems that the Ministry of Youth, it seems that this is well within its parameters, and it's not here. So I'm wondering why. Anyway, just to continue the Gazette notice, the fund, it will start with a capital of with some funds of 20 million Kenyan shillings, which I think is a bit small for such a big organization featuring such big players. But I'm guessing somebody has calculated that there's some cash that's going to be coming in, and as you can see, if the betting and other stuff, they're going to bring the cash there, it's gonna be raining cash. So anyway, people are complaining about Moody Awori, like they don't like his appointment here. So this Gazette notice, what it stipulated in terms of qualifications for this place, there is no age requirement. Again, the retirement age for civil servants is 60, and it used to be 55. But remember, the judges that can go for life, right? So a bit of a gray area. So here, kind of like the qualifications: must hold a university degree. He does hold a university degree from Makerere University. Has knowledge and experience of not less than 10 years in any of these fields: sports management, administration, finance, law, accounting, health, or economics. He was vice president under Kibaki. As in terms of qualifications, you can't beat him. The only thing that can beat him here is in terms of age, and perhaps the chapter 6 of the Constitution, where I think it's integrity, and he was part of the Anglo-leasing scandals. Never proven that he did anything wrong, but perhaps, put people aside when they're in scandals. But anyway, that's another day. Another interesting thing, he went to Mangu High School, and he was a Roman Catholic. I didn't know he was Roman Catholic, right? His sister is Mary Okello. She is the CEO of Makini Schools, so that's a bit interesting. His younger brother, Agri Awori, he came in 3rd position during the Ugandan elections. He was trying to be president. That's in 2001. So very interesting family. Makini schools over here. Third when it came to vice president in Uganda, and then Moody Awori now, vice president of Kenya under Kibaki, and also now I'm a board member of the Sports, Arts and Fund. So anyway, speaking about youth unemployment in Kenya, so Moody Awori is getting the jobs, the youth are complaining they're not getting the jobs, right? Youth, I'm going to use a UNDP report from January 2013. At that time, the youth unemployment rate was about 10%. National youth, the national unemployment rate, the total nationally now was 10%. So let's go break it down in terms of the youth. 80% of those unemployed, that was around 2.3 million people unemployed, were people between 15 and 34 years. So that's 80%. 80%. The majority of these people are between 15 and 34 years. And if you remember, 2013 was just how many years? Sorry. Yeah, 2013 was 6 years after the post-election violence. So if you're wondering where all the youth came about, all the energy came about, it's here. If you're ever wondering how so many people attend a rally on a weekday, on a working day, then perhaps these statistics can help you. 80% of them were young between the ages of 15 and 34. And if you're that young and somebody is telling you to attend a rally and they'll help you, you'll attend that rally, because what else do you have to do? So anyway, those are the stats. There's a professor, I think I kind of like this professor. His name was Halimu Shauri, Professor Halimu Shauri, and he did a report in August 2017, and this is what he said. In his report, he showed that he quoted the World Bank, and it's a 2016 statistic from the World Bank. The Uganda had a youth unemployment rate for 15 to 24 years. The Ugandan unemployment rate was 4%. The Tanzanian unemployment rate was 5.2%. The Kenyan unemployment was what? 22.2%. I just want to give these statistics to give you an idea of what our youth are up to, or what's happening to our youth. Like in gambling, we're at 76% in terms of the youth who have tried gambling. In Ghana, there are around 42%, or was it 46% who have tried gambling. 42%, right? So again, just from the gambling, you can see where youth are headed, right? Wasting cash, because any cash that the gambling companies make, it's cash lost by those who placed their bet, right? And when it came to here, the youth are really not participating in the economy in Kenya, even as compared to Uganda and Tanzania, and that has its effect, because this is between 15 and 24. If 15 and 24-year-olds in Uganda have started early in terms of employment, so they'll gain more experience early, they'll gain traction faster, right? By the time Kenyans now reach that, then it will be harder for them to compete with the Ugandans and the Tanzanians. Right now, I think the Tanzanian economy is growing at a faster rate than Kenyan, right? We can the present success that we have, we can enjoy it for so long, but we are not accelerating as fast as the others are accelerating, especially I think Tanzania. So when our youth are not engaged in the economy, and then they are engaged in in gambling, then we'll suffer the consequences, because a day will come when this generation of youth will have to compete with the Tanzanian generation of youth, and they already have a head start, even if it's a small one or at a lower level, right? So anyway, not to dwell on that much. So what Shauri says, that the consequences of high unemployment amongst the youth, slow economic growth, because again 80% of them are not engaged actively in the economy, right? And then they are engaged. We are sending cash to SportsPesa, which is sending cash to Bulgaria. So there's an outflow of capital from Kenya, right? So again, slow economic growth, I believe that's self-explanatory. You have people who are not participating in the labor force, but they still need to eat, right? So there's a high dependency ratio. Those who are working, they have to provide for these ones. That means they cannot invest as much as they want. I believe that's self-explanatory. Okay, yeah. So the second point he says is the high dependent population. Increases in diseases. I think when people are idle for a bit of time, then what happens? They start engaging in certain activities, unhealthy activities. I think that's okay. HIV prevalence rates, it's no wonder that it's amongst the youth, right? I'm not sure the statistics in terms of employment, but I'll check that in future and then we'll discuss. Crime and insecurity, of course. I don't have, you have. I need, you have. I'll take it. So that's basically what it is about. Again, when the youth, when they do not participate in the economy, right? When they're not participating, and somebody here comes and tells them, be part of us, right? What happens? They engage in insecurity. When it comes to the ladies, what do? They have no other source of income. They just seek after men to give them some income. Now, you can say that it's a choice, but at the end of the day, that choice, they may not have taken it if they had cash, because they would have this one and this one, but now they don't have this one. So anyway, it's what he says. Shauri says that he gives examples of the Taliban, Mungiki, Kapenguria 6, Nguruwe boys. Nguruwe boys, I've never heard of them. Wajuku wa Bibi, Wajuku wa something, Wakali, and then Funga File. So those are the groups that he gives as a result of lack of employment. And I think we had some others in Kayole. There's a famous lady who was shot, I think, one of them. Okay, so as we continue, again, we're shooting these guys, we're killing them on the streets, live in front of people, and then 80% of them are unemployed. Like 22% of them, they're not participating in the economy between the ages of 15 and 24. Whereas their counterparts in Uganda and Tanzania, they're participating within the economy, but we're shooting them in the streets. Okay, so just to go to another one, this is the Mombasa Republican Council. Again, poverty, a lot of poverty in Mombasa. Al-Shabaab, violent extremist groups. I don't know. I think the figure that I had was around 70,000 when they go there, or something of that sort. So again, you don't have anything to do here. You're not participating in the economy. Somebody comes and tells you, you can fight, gives you a cause to fight for. What will you do, right? Anyway, it might be about choices, but again, they have few choices. So anyway, just to go to another one, Kenyans, what Shauri says, the Kenyans, what they do, they focus. We can focus on a number of things. We can focus on economic prosperity and wealth creation, right? But what Shauri says is that we glorify politics. That is what he's focused on. Now, he also says that politics is a gateway to resource mobilization and distribution. We mobilize the resources and then we distribute them, right? But then what we do as Kenyans is that we focus on the distribution. For example, right now, we have given Awori a post, right? We have given others posts like the handshake manenos. We have given them posts, right? We are focusing on distribution. We're not focusing on resource mobilization. And what is our greatest resource? The 80% of the people who are unemployed are youth, right? They are part of the youth and they need to participate within this economy. 80% of the 2.3 million unemployed people are young, between 15 and 34. And we are not mobilizing that resource, that human resource. What you're focusing on is on distributing positions in government. So anyway, so just not to dwell on that. Again, another reason why I like Shauri is that, okay, here's what he says. He says that we distribute what is in the national coffers. Like, we focus on, like Treasury focuses on what it can get, Carry focuses on what it can get, right? We're not focusing on mobilizing resources, like human resources. Yeah, we need more resources. Like if we have the maize project that's going down at the coast, right? That's a resource, and it's not being mobilized, it's being used to steal, right? But we could have brought it into the economic system and pushed ahead with that. So that's another thing. He says that this eating culture, because the distribution is just a eating culture, who will be put where? He says the 2010 constitution made it worse, because it devolved that kind of distribution mentality. And he says that you might think that it is good because you are told to think that, but it is not. Anyway, he goes on to, he doesn't really have that negative view of the constitution as I have, but here is an indication of what he says about it, that eating culture was made worse. He believes that we can make it better, yeah, without changing the constitution. I believe that we have to change this constitution. So anyway, What is the impact of education on the aspiration of the youth? Because education plays a role in who we are and who become. And you keep hearing, change the education system, change it. Future aspirations of young people in school. This was a report back in the day. It was in 2003, and this is what it says. 24% of the adults, these were mostly adolescents, interviewed wanted to be physicians. 20% engineers, 17% lawyers, 11% nurses, 7% pilots, 3% teachers, 3% police. So people don't want to be police, right? They don't want to be teachers. Something we might need to think about. And none of them wants to do business, right? I don't see any person who just says businessman, right? Like we mostly used to say businessman. Or other professions, like he wants to be a welder, he wants to be a carpenter. Even IT was not here, right? So there are some professions that are not here. That it's most of these professions, they've been romanticized. So it's like the youth are focusing on romanticized professions, and that's one of the consequences of education. And this one was education on employment. So here it says one consequence of getting education is that graduates shun some occupations, especially when it comes to unskilled and uneducated, where you don't have to be educated, where you learn the trade by hand. They shun it completely. And I'll give you another study on that one. So the labor participation rate in sub-Saharan Kenya has one of the lowest participation rates for youth in sub-Saharan Africa. I think I've already given that figure. 22% youth aged between 15 and 24 in Kenya, 5% in Tanzania. We are lower than Tanzania in terms. Our youth do not participate in the labor force. They do not participate in the economy, but they eat. They lead to a high dependency ratio. As in, okay, so I think I'll explain that. We are only better than I think out of 15 countries, we are only better than Malawi, Nigeria, and Ethiopia. So only 3 countries. Poor performance. So the Ministry of Labor and Human Resource. Okay, this was back in the day in 2004. Ministry of Labor and UNDP, they partnered up and they cited a few causes for youth unemployment in Kenya. One of them says population growth rate. It's a lie. The growth rate it has positive effects because it increases the demand for goods and services. With that demand, it increases the production. We produce more to feed that population. That's why a high population is good for an economy, right? So high population growth rate, it's a lie. When a high population growth rate, it's a high population growth rate, but the system, like what we have right now, the people are not retiring. They're supposed to retire at 60. We have people at 90 again in office. So what happens is that we have a backlog. The youth can't move forward. So they keep piling up. And that's what they call a population growth rate, but it's a lie. Okay, another thing is a slow economic growth rate, so that's true. And another thing is they say that education system, I think I've showed that. We focus on certain kinds of job. I think I'll elaborate on that as we go. Yeah, education leads to job selectivity. And then there's labor market information. You don't have information. And then here's what we do. We increase taxes on the internet. And one of the reasons we give for lack of employment is that there's no enough information. We're playing. Rural to urban imbalance. Okay. Development and higher wages paid in urban areas, right? So people migrate from the rural to the urban areas. They leave a mass of poor people in the rural areas. Yeah, so that's a bit understandable. Yeah, it's a bit understandable, but at the same time, it's not really a reason. I think these are just fake reasons given to excuse the inefficiencies in governance. So just the last point, finally, I wanted to give an overview, right? People who move all the way to university education, they're likely to become employed, which is a good thing. They're likely to become employed. Note the word likely. And the British says it takes around 5 years. The DFID, yeah, it said that it takes around 5 years for the university students to get employment. When it comes to secondary school, people who cleared secondary and did not get employment, what do? Yeah, they mostly turn to agriculture. So university students, tertiary education and college students, they move on to employment. Secondary students, they move on to agriculture mostly, right? And guess what the primary school students do? They move into business. They move into business. It's no wonder that business people in Kenya, if you see most of them, they don't really have a good education level. They're not really highly educated, but they move very, very fast in business because they have no other way. People who are at university, they are less likely to get employed. So when you see people like Kalembe Ndile, when you see people like Sonko, people who had to struggle to move through and get as far as they could in education, it's the system. That's how it's built. They go into business, and when you go into business, you succeed more than these other people. The educated, the ones who go to university, they go and they steal, like the 5 billion Afia scandal and all of those things, right? So at the end of the day, we have thieves at the top, and the thieves, the educated thieves, they know how to structure their theft, right? They'll form funds, and those funds, it will be an old boy of friends who know how to steal well, and then they'll steal, right? The others, they just have to go hardcore, right? It's a tender, just give me 5 million for something that I should pay 500,000 for. Anyway, I'm just trying to root for the people who do not get sort of like a tertiary education or a secondary education. They go into business and they succeed. Do not ridicule them when they succeed, because they had no other way of doing it, right? So that's my video for today. I hope that I will see you tomorrow. Had issues with I think there's a technical issues with the social media app that I used to do my live videos, so I couldn't do a live so I had to record this one live and then now upload it. So bye bye and take care. It's raining. It's a blessing.